Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Drax Corner. In this episode, I'll again be playing Targaryen, Banner of the Watch. And I'll be up against my friend Jeremy, who is playing Baratheon, Banner of the Rose. So I'll be setting up 4 cards here. I've got Illyrio's Estate, Rhaegal, Castle Black, and a Veteran Builder, which is pretty decent. I've got the Castle Black to stand the Veteran Builder, which makes him pretty good at defending power challenges. I've got Daenerys and Rhaegal, which are a good combo, and then left in my hand will be Support of the People and Tears of Bliss. And I draw back up into a Dracarys, another copy of Rhaegal, Viserion, and Khal Drogo. So they're pretty good options for me. Dracarys I'm most excited about. Khal Drogo I'm least excited about. There's only one copy of him in the deck, and that's just to be a target for noble cause if I need to. But he's definitely not crucial to the plan in any way. So Jeremy has set up Shireen Baratheon, a Courtesan of the Rose, Marjorie Tyrell, and a King's Road, which is pretty decent. I'm looking at the plots to decide what to play. I'm definitely going to play a noble cause. Jeremy has been known to run a naval superiority. He actually got me with it in store championships we had here last weekend. And I was playing Targ Fealty, so I couldn't play my Dany for like the whole game, and then he intrigue challenged it. But I don't know. This is a different deck he's playing now, so hopefully he's not running it. Because that would be pretty bad right now. I wouldn't be able to play anything. Alright, so he's gone Noble Cause, which is good in comparison to Naval. He does have a King's Road, so he wins the initiative there. So he'll choose for me to go first. We enter the draw phase, and I draw up a King's Road and a Littlefinger. So King's Road is pretty good for me right now. It's going to let me play Daenerys reduced by 6. So she'll cost me 1, bringing me down to 3 gold. As long as I use that reducer. And then I can play Dupe of Rhaegal, Viserion for 2 gold, and I'll have a gold left over for one of my 3 events, Support of the People, Tears of Bliss, or Dracarys. And since I have no idea what he's going to play, I don't really know which one it'll be at this point. So I pass Marshallin over to him. He plays the Dragonstone Port, the Baratheon Reducer location, starts counting his gold up, should have 5. So economy wise we are at the same sort of point at this turn, except he didn't have to pay the gold for that King's Road, so he could get an extra gold worth going for him. He's definitely going to play a Lord or a Lady. Could be Robert, Mel, Nine Flowers, Randall, Stannis. He pays 1 gold for Robert. So Robert is the best character in the game, arguably. He just gets stronger the more guys that kneel, and he has renown, and he can also kneel people on the attack if he wins the challenge, which he almost always does. But I have a pretty easy option in my hand of dealing with him. Unless he plays a really big intrigue guy, which he doesn't. He plays a Bastard in Hiding, bringing him down to 2 gold. And he passes on marshalling with 2 gold left. So he's got a bit of a bigger board. And I'm just going to open with an intrigue challenge, stealth over the Courtesan of the Rose, because I'd rather Margaery is the defender if someone's going to defend. I'll win the challenge either way. I'll get to stand. I'll get to draw a card. If he lets it go unopposed, I'll get a power. So yeah, he lets it go unopposed. He discards before he gives me a chance to react, saying that, but I play Tears of Bliss on Robert. At which point he says, "Oh fuck." Stand Danny, get my unopposed power, draw a card, get a Milk of the Poppy from that insight. So I don't declare any more challenges at this point. If I do a military challenge, he'll just kill off Shireen Baratheon, kneel out Daenerys most likely. If I do a power challenge, he's got no power to steal. It's not the biggest deal. So I pass on challenges, and he thinks of what to do while Robert gently weeps at his impending doom. So he's thinking pretty hard about what he wants to do here. Ideally, he wants to buff Robert up a bit before challenging with Robert, so then he can get more use out of that Intimidate. I can win an Intrigue challenge on defense. I can win a Power challenge on defense if he's not using Robert, but I do have to buff Robert in order to do that. So he does the Intrigue challenge with Courtesan of the Rose. I decide to block with Danny, basically just to get the draw from Insight. He could have buffed Courtesan of the Rose with Margaery there to actually win the challenge, but he chose not to. Maybe he wants to save it to buff Robert to kneel even more guys if he needs to. So he's still got a power and a military to go. If he does a power, I can easily just win it with Veteran Builder and stand them again, so it's not even going to buff Robert any further. But he is at 7 strength at the moment from those 2 kneeling characters. Jeremy just carefully thinking about what to do while he weeps for Mr. Robert. And he chooses to do a military challenge. So Robert's currently 7. I've got 2 potential defenders. If I block with both of them, that'll bring him up to 9. That would give me 5 on the defense, which could stop a put to the sword that he has saved 2 gold for, maybe. But Margaery can always just swing in and buff it further anyway. So I'm in a pretty difficult position here, but I choose to just block with Rhaegal. I lose the challenge by more than 5, but he can't kneel out both of my power challenges, so we can't get an unopposed power through. And he does use put to the sword on my Danny, so we kind of trade big 7 costers here. And I lose a Rhaegal dupe to military claim. He then gets to use his Intimidate keyword, and he chooses to kneel out the Veteran Builder, the obvious choice there, which will let him get through a power challenge against Viserion, and also go through to win dominance. Mousing over Shireen, thinking, damn, I hate her. She's making me not want a wildfire. Although, Robert's dead at the end of the phase, so she's the only character that would die in wildfire. Not really worth it. Um, so yeah, he's thinking pretty carefully about what to do here. I think the answer's pretty obvious unless you've got something cool in your hand. Maybe he's got a superior claim that he's trying to win the challenge by 5 or more. Realizes he can't possibly do that, but he can just win the power challenge and win dominance as well with his remaining standing characters. Then Robert dies, he gets his dominance power, and we end the turn at 2 powered to 0. So, plots here. Feels he could kneel out Marge. Wildfire would kneel out one of my guys. March would put me in a worse board state. There's no attachments to confiscate. Definitely don't need fortified position. Quite possibly will change that out of the deck since I'm not drawing the wall as much as I thought I might. And I need the initiative, I think. Which is why Calling the Banners is a great plot for that. Almost thought he might Wildfire himself there, just to kneel out one of my guys. And people always use Wildfire on the turn that I use Calling the Banners. Just to deny me that gold. I don't know how they always know. I collect 4 gold and win initiative, choose for him to go first. He has a Feast for Crows as his plot. So if he wins dominance this turn, he'll get 3 power. 2 bonus power from the plot. So I drew into a Rose Road and another copy of Daenerys. Daenerys is currently dead. I say currently because there is a small chance she could come back. Now that I have another copy in my hand, I could potentially play a Fire and Blood to move her from my dead pile to my discard, and then I'd be able to play her from my hand again. However, I don't have a Fire and Blood in my hand, and I think there's only 1 in the deck in total. So Jeremy counted 6 gold and just played the Knight of Flowers, who, when he attacks alone in a challenge, you may only declare 1 character as a defender, which is pretty great with Marjorie, bringing him up to 8 strength, and the only people that can really defend against that are Tywin, Robert, maybe a buffed Balon, and maybe a buffed Mormont. He'd have to be really buffed though. Okay, so play the dupe of Viserion. Trying to figure out what I want to do here. I could play Cal, I could play Littlefinger. I most likely want to play a Milk, but I haven't quite decided who I want to play it on. So I decide to play Littlefinger to get the 2 cards, see what I'm going to get from it, and help me decide how I want to proceed. So I drew a King's Road, which I obviously can't play this turn, as I've already used up my limited, but I do get a second Dracarys, which is pretty good for Marjorie, but at the same time, she's not going to enter challenges while she has her ability necessarily. So I choose to milk her, and then it's more likely that I can also Dracarys her. And Knight of Flowers kind of falls outside of that Dracarys range without Dany or the Plaza of Punishment. So I think I've passed there on marshalling with 1 gold remaining, which will let me do Dracarys or my Support of the People if I can win by 5 or more. Jeremy's thinking pretty hard about what he wants to do. Chooses to open with an intrigue challenge with the Courtesan of the Rose. I guess essentially trying to kneel out my guys. Probably most importantly trying to kneel out my dragons. Because once you get those dragons knelt, you feel a lot safer against Dracarys. I mean, there is always Waking the Dragon. I'm not running it in this deck, but if you're playing against dragons, they can do that. So I choose to block it with Rhaegal. I don't really want to lose a card right now. Having 2 Dracarys in my hand is pretty good. I'm sitting at my reserve value of 6, which is pretty good. And I don't really have any other draw now that Dany's dead and Littlefinger is on the board, unless I march him to the wall and draw another one, but that sounds pretty expensive. So he chooses to power challenge with Shireen Baratheon, which is a pretty bad idea at this point. I've got Castle Black, so I don't even have to really kneel for it. I win by 5 or more, as it's 1-6. So I choose to just jump into getting a Plaza of Punishment. He thought I might get a Iron Throne here to stop his plot from going off, which could have been a good move. But it's been really difficult to sort of military challenge him with Shireen Baratheon there. So Plaza is a good way to start killing off his little dudes that aren't Shireen. Gives me a bit of a better board position than him. 2 of his challenges are down. All he's got left is military, which he could definitely win, but it leaves himself open on the reverse, where I could let his mill go unopposed and kill off a dupe and not really lose much, and do a mill back unopposed. So he passes on challenges. I'm thinking about what do I want to start with. I'm thinking about his plot and how he is at 9 strength for dominance right now, and I'm at 10. I could attempt to kneel out his guys and sort of work my way to winning dominance that way, but I don't really need to right now. I've got pretty good location advantage, I've got decent characters out, and I have a slight card advantage. So I'd rather just stop his power rush at that point. I take the power from it, bringing us up to 2-1, and we end that turn. Don't really have that many good options for plotting right now. Marching would probably hurt me more, although I might get rid of his Shireen, more than likely Courtesan of the Rose. Instead I choose to kneel out his Knight of Flowers, and he plays build-in orders, which will let him search the top 10 cards of his deck for a location or an attachment. So I managed to win initiative, which will make me choose him to be first player. He looks at his deck to find King's Robert Warhammer. He was not very happy with that. I think he wanted the Red Keep or something. Painted Table, maybe? Iron Throne, maybe? I don't know. So we draw, and I've got a Jorah and a Hand's Judgment. It's pretty good. I've still got that King's Road in hand. And I get to see what he's going to play before I decide. But I could easily play Khal Drogo and Jorah, and still have a gold for Dracarys. He dupes the Knight of Flowers. And he's got 4 gold, 1 reducer. He reduces, pays 1 gold, gets the Warhammer out, which kind of tells me he might not really have anything too good in his hand, especially when he was kind of disappointed to draw that. And he pays another 2 gold for a Vanguard Lancer, and he'll trigger the reaction on it to discard a power from my house card, bringing it up to 2-0 in his favour. But I get to go at marshalling, so I will play my King's Road and sack that, reduce with my other location. So get Khal Drogo out for 2 gold, leave him in with 3. So I could play Jorah and still have a gold. I could save the gold, and then I've got potential for 2 Dracarys because I have 2 dragons, and also cancel whatever event he might have for 1 gold. And also, if I play Jorah now, it puts me in a worse position for an upcoming wildfire. I don't really want to overextend, and I don't really need to, especially with Night Flowers kneeling this turn. It kind of opens up the board for me to do some pretty nasty things. So I pass on Marshalling, saving 3 gold. Also would probably make him be a bit afraid of Put to the Sword. Not that he could really do anything about it if I had it, as he's only got 1 strength in military. And if I win a power challenge, I can kill that guy, and then he's got no strength in military. I could mill with Cal, Put to the Sword, someone more important. That could be a pretty good play. But I don't have it, so it's not even in the deck, because it's not a Khal Drogo deck. But, Dany died, and you need to have significant characters to sort of keep up in the game, so it's a 1 copy of Cal, but if Dany's dead and I draw him, I'm going to play him. He's got Renown, so he helps your win condition. The extra challenge helps you go offensive if you just get in the Targaryen cards. So I think he's passed on challenges at this point, yep. Decides he can't really do much and needs to defend. So I decided to open with a power challenge because I don't want one of my guys to get knelt out from a mill. I could have opened with an intrigue and kind of secured a power challenge more, but I'm also kind of baiting him in here. Because I have 2 dragons up, I could burn both of his characters right now if I wanted. I choose to just burn Marjorie, which will let me win the challenge, and then I could even trigger the Plaza to burn the Courtesan. It wouldn't make it unopposed though. Whereas if I burn this guy, the Vanguard Lancer, I will be able to get an unopposed military through. So that was pretty favourable for me. The board is looking well in my favour now. So I do an intrigue, which will also be unopposed. He gets rid of his Milk of the Poppy, which isn't that concerning to me, but I'm happy for it. Then I get to do a mill with Cal for the Renown, unopposed, and he'll kill off Shireen Baratheon, which will trigger her interrupt to Neil Rhaegal, stopping me from doing a second mill, but I'll win dominance with the 2 gold I had left, bringing me up to 5 power. So that was a pretty good turn for me. And I'll flip Confiscation. I could have done a March to the Wall at this point and put him down to 1 character, and it is a pretty good counter to, well, not counter, but it's a pretty good play when they play in Wildfire Assault. But I didn't really think I needed to because I can just burn her with the Plaza. But now I have the choice of what to kill off, and I go with Rhaegal because I've got the dupe. And the intrigue icon doesn't seem that important when I've got Jorah in my hand. And I draw up into Jorah and Sir Waymar Royce. I've got just enough gold to play them both, but I've got a reducer for Jorah, which means I've got a gold for that Fire and Blood, which will let me bring Dany back to life, or bring Rhaegal back into play. So some pretty good options there. And still got a Dracarys, so it's definitely worth saving that 1 gold regardless. So I pass on Marshalling with 1 gold left, and at this point, Jeremy sees his cards that he's got and concedes. He knows he can't come back from this point. So yeah, Targaryen banner off the watch wins.